Shut up and sit down.
Yep, I'm flying through the air. This is not good.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Lee Grand, Evan Price, Lance Heffler, and Jake Von Doering. No athlete is truly tested until they've stared an injury in the face and came out on the other side stronger than ever. Enjoy episode 106.
Oh my God, help me! I don't want to die! Oh, stop, drop, and roll!
Need a 6-shot, get a fat gap dab on my dad cam. Then a real fast pain coming in hot. Clean whip, new kit, yeah, look faster. Hitting all the secret lines.
Help me, Tom Cruise!
But how did he get down to his underwear that fast?
Now I need a new tube. Ride bike, park laps all day, yo. With all my dudes like, hey, yo.
Trail so sick, need some Robitussin. Memorize.
Oh God! Please don't let the invisible fire burn my
Brush the
friends!
cobwebs off with a double black. Routine, poutine, then another lap. First day on the bike got me feeling sketchy. Fell down on some roots, now I got a wedgie.
Oh, help me, Oprah Winfrey!
Sick. Then I hit the top button on the GoPro. Wait, did you say go or say no?
Okay, too fast. Everyone, we need to pump at a pace of 100 beats per minute.
Oh, okay. That's hard to keep track. How many is that per hour?
Well, a good trick is to pump to the tune of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive.
You can't tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man, no time to talk.
Staying alive, staying alive.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Doering. Today I'm here with Lance Epler.
Lance Bromance here in town.
Bromance.
I don't know.
I think he was trying to say broken Lance.
Lance, broken Lance. I can't even say it.
Oh, man.
I don't know, whatever.
To his right, Evan Price.
Are we sure he didn't get a concussion?
No, I'm not.
Are we sure? All right. Dataza has a new Brazilian drip.
Excellent.
So that is what Matt is drinking.
Sipping.
I am drinking a Guatemalan drip. Lance
Has a Brazilian wax.
has a Brazilian wax. And
Oh, boy.
Jake is drinking.
Sorry.
LaCroix. Well, I was drinking. I already topped and finished.
Wow.
Already finished her off.
I was thirsty, I guess.
Man.
To Evan's right, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs? You guys are looking a little beat up.
He's staring directly into my eyes, and that is true.
You're looking a little rough around the edges,
A little rough.
but
Did
that's
you-
okay. We still love you.
Did you hear me try to do your intro from 2 months ago?
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh. I thought I nailed it, really.
Nailed it. Absolutely.
That seemed to be the consensus on the interwebs,
No,
is that I nailed it.
It was embarrassing.
It's perfect.
I've actually been told that I should take over that intro.
It's all yours.
Okay. We'll
It's up for
trade.
grabs.
All right, let's get into some backpedaling. I don't know, Matt, what do you think? Should we save Lance for last or just let him get it over with now?
What does he have to talk about?
Let's save him for last.
All right, then why don't you get us started?
Yeah. So I spent the week hiding like softball-sized rocks on descents in Southern California, and I just figured
tennis ball.
I figured whoever could find that particular rock would win the blackberry
Rock socks,
LaCroix drink for the day, and so we have a victor. Someone found that rock.
Oh, he found the rock
He found the magic rock that was hidden. Yes.
at 42 miles an hour. He found the rock.
He found it. And ran some, swam some. I did an indoor triathlon this past weekend.
Oh, yeah. I haven't talked to you about this yet.
Yeah,
How'd it go?
Fine. I don't know. I mean, I was swimming through traffic. I swam not as much as I was expecting to swim 750 in 10 minutes and swam like 650 basically, 675. Not as good as I had hoped for, but
Traffic doesn't help, though.
and the biking was not great. I don't know, but I also think those trainers are questionable at best.
Was it still way off?
And then the running I was okay with because I just started like super slow and just kept inching it down. I finished at like 6-minute pace or something like that.
Nice.
Which is fine. I mean, it was all kind of fine. Like the whole point was go have fun, like do this thing, and it was great. So that was fun. Great weekend, and then my wife's been out of town, so I've been on Kid Patrol. So
We missed you at camp, Matt.
We did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of comments. Wish
Uh-oh.
Matt LeGrand was here.
Is that how they went? What?
You know,
How did they really go?
you could have brought one of those little Wahoo things. I grew up in one of those. You know, the little things where your kids just sit in the back and you drag
Yeah,
them
I could put them on
for
Lance's.
500 miles. That would have been easy.
Yeah, I could just put one of those little kid seats on the back of Jake's bike and just ridden
drop
along.
Rocks.
Yes,
just drop
exactly.
rocks as you go.
I would just be sipping on LaCroix the whole time in Southern California.
I did a group ride in San Diego.
Yeah,
remember,
I remember
we
that.
showed that it was like 50 people, and a guy showed up with a kid carrier.
Good for him.
He was on an e-bike, but he stayed with the group on his e-bike with this 3-year-old kid.
That is the one scenario where I think you should absolutely be allowed to have an e-bike, because if you're carrying another human being with you.
But
This is
remember,
so awesome.
for a while you didn't think he was on an e-bike.
No,
It was just like, holy
I'm like,
cow.
oh my gosh, this guy is crushing it.
You're
I
like-
can't even keep up with the dude with the kid on his back. Oh, he's on an e-bike.
Yeah.
Now I feel better.
You're like, this guy's legit.
Yeah,
I can get an autograph after this, after the ride.
Like, is this Jan's Voigt? Is
It
Jan's
could have
Voigt on this
been.
ride with his kid?
Right on. Evan, what'd you do?
This was kind of a down week in training for me going into the next 2 weeks. And also I traveled to the wonderful city of Tampa, Florida. I really hope we don't have any listeners on Tampa from Tampa.
probably
We do.
Do we?
They hate you right now.
I'm sure St. Pete's is fine. Tampa, God, that city is. Ugh. I was born in Florida too, so I feel like I can like the state of Florida is fine. I love parts of Florida. I was born on Eglin Air Force Base, great area, Niceville, Florida, beautiful area. Tampa's not a beautiful area. Tampa's like the coastal town that doesn't deserve to be a coastal town. You know, like if you take other cities and put them in that area, they could be beautiful. But Tampa is just.
It is on the Gulf side.
Hey, don't talk trash about
What's
the Gulf
up?
side.
Sorry.
I was born on the Gulf side.
What's up with all the crazy news stories always coming out of Florida, though?
Yeah, and they're always Tampa based.
Yeah.
It's like Tampa and Jacksonville.
There's some meme. It's like put in your
Tampa,
birth date
Florida
and then
man.
Florida man news, and then you get something like
Yeah.
Florida man eaten by alligator.
No,
wow.
Florida
humidity.
man robs convenience store with an alligator.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it's always funny.
If you like live in Florida long enough during the month of August, it does not surprise me that crazy things happen. It's like 100 million degrees temperature, 100%
And-
humidity.
yeah.
No wonder people go nuts. But yeah, anyway, so I did an experiment in how little recovery you can do while sick and still survive. And the conclusion is I'm not good at that. So
Oh, fantastic.
How was your lakeside long run? That's what I want to hear about.
So I just to give some background for this, I basically went off a couple hours of sleep for a few days and got sick, and decided that the best approach. This is me just being completely honest. Nobody take this advice. This is awful. I would tell all my patients not do this. Decide that it was still good to make sure I get my 100K of running in during the week.
While
And
you're
even
sick.
and even throw in intervals, which all felt great until I was done, and then I would feel miserable every single time. But I took a red eye straight into doing coursework in Tampa, and then came back, kind of died Sunday or Saturday night, woke up and decided I was still going to do the Lakeside Long Run.
Okay.
Matt's one of his Camus runners was there.
Who is one of my favorites.
Just an awesome
I mean,
human
I'm not
being.
allowed to say that I have favorites.
Oh, he's got to
he's
be
just
your
another
favorite.
student.
He's
just
just
a-
such a much better kid than your usual high schooler.
He's a better person than I am, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's not saying much.
Yeah, going to pre-med work at University of Washington. Just
Maybe.
a good kid.
We'll
Maybe,
see.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Has plans to maybe walk on the team. No pressure to him, but I would love to see if he
I
did
know.
that.
I hope he does,
Yeah.
because he's like a 15, 17 guy. And that
Yeah.
was like mid-season in
Wow.
cross country, and then he had a little injury, and he's been kind of injured for off and on for
Yeah.
a little while. So
And he just came back from a small little surgery, but is back to training now, and
yeah.
ran the first 7 miles with me, and we were
Did you?
cruising at 6:45 easy. So
Yeah.
he's looking good. So
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he's coming back slow. So
yeah,
all right.
yep.
Cool.
That's about all my backpedaling.
I'll jump into mine real quick before we get to Lance. Fresh back from team training camp, and it was a doozy. Chris Handel just destroyed us with like.
Who was the most fit?
Oh, Robert.
I mean, we're gonna get into that. Robert.
Yeah,
Robert. Okay, gotcha.
Barton.
Yeah.
You know, Jordan was super fit as well. And, Lance was looking great. Chris Handel was super strong as well. Sean Martin surprised me as well. He was super fit. He was like, I was having a hard time keeping up with him on the climbs. As a matter of fact, I got dropped quite a few times by him. So
I feel like there was a Sean Martin that did really well at the Vancouver Lake Half Marathon, and I was like, he better not be super good at running and super good at biking. And
Different Sean Martin.
different one, yeah. And I was like, okay. And I was pretty sure he's in California. So
yeah, we just had a super great group of people there. The house was just incredible. That house,
It was nice. Yeah.
8,500 square feet. Did
Yeah.
you realize that? I went
Yeah,
back and looked at it.
it's
I'm like,
huge.
yeah. slept like 24 people, and we had like 18 that were just comfortable, and you could like go off into parts of the house and just be completely alone and by yourself. And it was sitting up on the side of a hill, and it had like a beautiful sunset every single night. It was just spectacular. Good food, good company, lots of awards handed out for different things that people, feats of accomplishments, some good, some bad. But yeah, it ended up being, for me at camp, 420 miles.
Wow.
It was 27 hours of ride time.
27 hours, okay.
42,740 feet of elevation gain.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's the more impressive part. That's a lot of feet.
Well, every day was between 8 and 11,000 feet of climbing almost every day.
Our recovery day was 55 miles and 3,200 feet of climbing, or 3,500 feet of climbing. So
that's a training
and
day
it
for
felt
me.
like a breeze after everything else that we'd been doing. So we finished the week with a climb up Glendora Mountain Road and up to Crystal Lake, and that was a beautiful long grinder of a climb, but the descents there were fantastic.
Yeah,
I had a good time doing that. Got it all on video, front and back, and I ended up coming back down Crystal Mountain with Robert chasing me all the way down. And I don't know if they could have come around me or not, but I still managed to hold them off, and I ended up with the 25th fastest time down Crystal Lake, and that was like out of 5,500 people.
Wow, that's a very well known area.
Yeah, and that's there's a couple spots where I sat up, just kind of like I don't need to hammer the whole way down, but I think I averaged almost 39 miles an hour going down the thing, just sprinting out of the corners. It was a good time. It was fun. We all had a blast. So except for one person. Lance, how's your week, buddy?
Jake has very sneakily built up a lot of fitness. Yeah, like real sneaky. Like
shoulder. My shoulder does not feel good today.
Yeah,
it's 420 miles.
Every day I was like rubbing crap on it and trying to stretch it out, and like it works well in that range of motion.
On it?
Well,
just
that's
joking.
a home remedy.
I mean, I don't know where you got that idea, but that's.
I'm gonna talk to your doctor about this.
Oh, it reminds me of Happy Gilmore. But anyway, sorry. I was rubbing this THC-laden CBD oil crazy stuff that I got when I broke everything down. And
but you made it through the week. I mean,
I made it through the
crushed.
week. Yeah. So it was fun.
You got to be happy.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy. I'm just really sore.
Really cool.
So anyway, Lance, how was your week?
Nothing happened to me. Let's move on to lead out news.
Lead out news.
Lance's legs are so tired he decided to bring crutches today, just because his legs were that tired.
People are crying listening to this.
Aggressive.
Well, the week started out fantastic for me, actually. I left a couple days early to head to camp and spent a couple days doing some rides just with me and my wife, which were phenomenal. I rode Big Sur again.
Wind on your back?
It wasn't
Not
that
like it was
windy,
before.
and I still got a couple top 10s on Big Sur. So I was feeling
you're
fit and rolling and feeling pretty good. So.
So the last people have heard on this podcast was that someone drove a car through your house and that you chased them down in your whitey tighties with a baseball bat.
Okay,
so
that was the last story we told.
That's what they've heard.
And then I jumped in a van. And, nothing's happened since then.
The fence is still
not fixed. It's not wide open.
You fixed something.
I put it back together well enough to keep the dog in.
Yeah. Okay.
And it'll be fixed soon, but it hasn't been fixed yet. So we're working on that. Anyway,
yeah, get out there.
Get
out there and work on that.
I should. And with my crutches and my bleeding body, I'm bleeding from like almost every appendage. Just so you're aware as you're listening to this.
Okay.
So
beautiful. Including your arse, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Most importantly.
So, actually, do you want to see that? Because I could show you where I'm bleeding from.
Are we live? We don't have the YouTube live yet.
We don't have the YouTube live.
Save that for later.
Okay. So yes, had another great day riding down at Big Sur. My wife and I drove down to the Malibu area, and I rode Latigo Canyon, which is another one of, after Mount Baldy, it's supposed to be one of the best climbs in the whole LA area.
Okay.
It goes from the Malibu area up to Mulholland Drive, which is kind of up there.
Okay.
Near,
I just watched
Calabasas.
Phil Guyman's thing with GCN, and it was like they were biking there.
Yeah, they're biking around that area.
Super cool.
Yeah. So, and Latigo Canyon was just phenomenal climb, fantastic, like 10 miles, lots of curves, lots of very few cars. It was just fantastic. So I had a great day there. Then met up with the guys for camp. The camp started really well for me. This might be scary to hear, but on the second day of camp, we had like a 100-mile day, and there was an hour-long climb that we did to a little town called Julian, California, known for its pies.
Never heard of it.
And
you should go.
And I got a top 10 on an hour-long climb.
Well, no, we were talking specifics of weight and stuff here, and I'm going to be honest. I mean, as I continue to joke about being terrified of Lance chasing me up climbs, I'm getting more and more terrified of Lance chasing me up climbs.
Terrified of Lance
I have nightmares
pulling away
Lance.
from you on climbs.
We don't have to worry about that anymore. Don't worry.
Well, you're going to come back.
But,
this is the scary
I'm
part.
sure I'll come back. But I was actually able to stay on Robert's wheel, who is by far and away
he's been on the show before.
He's been on the show.
He's a professional.
They've been on the show before.
I'm sorry. Yep.
They've one of the best climbers in
the Portland,
Vancouver
Absolutely.
area.
I'd put
Pacific Northwest. For
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Pro cyclocross.
Pro cyclocross.
Looking to get picked up on a pro road team. Too.
Trying to get his Cat 1 upgrade on the road so he can get picked up by hopefully a Continental team, so that they can get picked up
Robert.
by the
Let's
Continental
go.
team.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a day that they were hammering away, and I was right on his wheel, and I just didn't want to lose his wheel. And usually there was about 5 of us that stayed with them, and when I turned around, they were all gone. It was just me and Robert.
I would expect Jordan to be there, and never let go,
and didn't. And so I thought, what?
That is not a usual place for you.
Not a usual place for me. It ended up being, the whole climb was about 2 hours. It was like 30 miles, 30-ish miles.
How much of this game?
Your FTP is like 215.
Yeah.
So
Zwift has his FTP at 135, I think, right now.
So
that's a pretty big
I'm
increase.
just going to go on a limb and just say you probably broke that.
I probably broke
that
that.
hour.
It's like 150 now, I bet.
For that hour, he was probably at like 420 or something.
Zwift increased your FTP by 2 watts.
Yeah.
So I was actually feeling quite good, through the week. The next day, we went to Palomar Mountain, which is a legendary climb down there in Southern California, and couldn't hang with Robert that day after the day before. But actually was having a very good day. I climbed really well. I was actually in the lead on sprint points that day because I was sprinting well as well. And then I had a little bit of an incident. And so
you ran into Matt's rock then, right?
So I ran into Matt's rock.
Well, why'd you run into it? You're supposed to pick it up, not run into it.
So here's the story. We had made it to the top of Palomar. It's about a 10-mile descent back to our cars. We were done with all the climbing for the day, and we were just cruising back down to the cars. Generally, me and Robert are a couple of the faster descenders, and so me and him and Chris Surratt, who
is also a very fast descender.
Very fast descender, but we'd been battling for the sprint points all week, for the sprint signs, and I was trying to stay on his wheel just so I could out-sprint him at the end. And so we were cruising down. It was on a straightaway. Somehow I missed a rock.
Hello.
There was Mr. Rock.
That was the Rock.
That was the
Rock.
Sound like
He's
that?
messaging.
Something like that.
The Rock is messaging Lance right now.
When you hit your head, it was like a bing.
So we were on a fast descent. I'm doing 42 miles an hour, and just missed Chris just missed a rock, and I just happened to drill it with my front wheel. So I drilled a rock. I immediately went over the bars and just skidded along the pavement for about 150 feet. So I was super fortunate. As soon as I hit the rock, I kind of tucked my head and I kind of ninja rolled somehow.
The important parts.
Yep. And as soon as I skidded to a stop, I sat up and I felt my collarbones. Nope, not broken. Felt my shoulders. Nope, both working right. Oh, both legs feel okay. Both arms feel okay. I'm good. And so I popped up. I jumped right up, and it's like, and one of my teammates who was behind me came, is like, Lance, sit down, take it a minute. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I think I'm okay. I'm all right. Walk over to my bike, and it was in pieces. I had cracked my top tube. I'd cracked my helmet. I had the seat had been ripped off and was in several pieces. The seat rails had been bent very badly.
So the bike did not make it.
Bike did not make it. I cracked my wheel, my front wheel, and I cracked the frame and broke the seat. And so all that stuff is shot.
Your GoPro survived.
My GoPro survived unscathed. I got the whole thing on video.
I watched that video and I threw up a little bit in my mouth.
I have not watched that video, and I
Do you want to see it?
No, I don't want to watch
There
that
is
video.
one screen grab that you got of it's kind of like your seat is in the frame and it's kind of like it's airborne, almost touching the ground, and it's in like focus, and then you're in the background like sliding kind of out of focus, like. But it's like the GoPro was like taking a video of the seat, and just that picture. I know the whole process sucked, but that was a good picture.
It was a pretty good picture.
I'm like,
of me. Yeah.
It's like, hey, look
broken
at me.
seat. Rolling through the street and me skidding on my butt.
Don't mind the stuff you see in the background. How nice is this seat?
That's right.
That's a nice bike flying through the air right there.
It was pretty crazy. Anyway, I hit the deck pretty hard. It turns out I landed right on my hip, and we went straight to urgent care. There's a lot to the story, and I don't know how much of it you guys want to hear or how much you want to tell, but. It was funny with the Garmin incident response.
Let's save that because I think we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about that a bit later
We're
on.
going to integrate quite a bit of this.
We'll dig into the story a little bit more,
especially the at the scene part of that.
Oh, so crazy.
So you went off to urgent care and.
Yeah, I dashed down. We got down to urgent care. It took a couple hours to get to urgent care.
Yeah.
By the time we got to urgent care, I couldn't walk any longer. I could not put any weight on my right hip.
Yep.
Everything else was okay. I'm bleeding from everywhere. Both knees are missing skin. My right leg is missing skin. My right butt cheek has been mostly scaled off, so there's no skin on my right butt cheek. My back is missing skin. My shoulder is missing skin. My elbows, my fingertips.
Which is really, at the end of the day, all that matters. Anybody who's ever crashed bike, the fingertips one? I'll take all the skin off my back.
I tell you what.
Leave it on the fingertips. It's awful.
The kit I had on, shredded. I was wearing gloves. Those were shredded. If I hadn't been wearing gloves, my hands would have been significantly worse. They would have been way worse.
Your wrists are bad. In a random spot. How did you...
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a weird spot on his wrist.
It's just everything just hit and kind of chipped and just...
Yeah. My back was shredded after my crash this summer.
Your back was shredded.
Yeah, but
your back was bad.
That was like you said, I was like, I don't even care. Like, don't even care.
Right.
Like, just leave my nose skin and my fingertip skin.
Yeah, like you want those fingers, man.
I know.
You need those.
Yeah, missing the skin really didn't bother me. I've missed lots of skin,
Yeah.
So it really wasn't like...
The potential hip issue is much more significant.
Yeah, we got to urgent care. I realized I couldn't walk into urgent care. They had to come and get a wheelchair to get me in there.
Did they bring a bike?
They're like, just bike in.
Bike was in pieces. And we'll get into this. I was so upset at this point. I was trying to keep a straight face because I've put a lot of effort into gearing up for this road season, and it's shot more or less.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get into that. When in urgent care, they took some X-rays of my hip, and luckily I did not break my femur or the head of the femur.
Pain level 1 out of 10.
My pain tolerance is...
I need an objective number, Lance. 1 out of 10.
Well, my pain tolerance is abnormal.
Yeah,
low.
Absolutely.
It's higher than normal, which is why I'm an athlete, because I can push through pain. So I don't know. I think for most people that pain level would have been
level 1,
like a 7, or because nothing was broken, but. When she asked me, I said, "Oh, it's like a 4. I'm okay."
Yeah.
And then I couldn't stand up. She's like, "It's not a 4. You can't even stand." I'm like, "Well, okay. Right.
It's all relative."
Yeah.
When I had that shoulder thing, I was like, "This is 10."
Well, this is why I don't ask a 0 to 10 pain, because you can tell by somebody's
relative.
reaction and response to stuff.
And then I when they were taking off my jersey, because my jersey survived, I passed out. Like it was like pain. And they were like, "We'll give you some pain meds," and I was like, "No,
I don't need that."
Like I'm okay with pain.
Yeah.
But this is it's a tough thing to handle. But
so it turns out the X-rays couldn't tell a whole lot. There's a question of whether I have an acetabulum fracture, which is
astastic.
An astastic. I have an ass fracture.
Yeah.
So I might have fractured the socket that your femur sits into.
Gotcha.
And it's really difficult to tell on an X-ray, and it can only be kind of verified by an MRI or a CAT scan. And I was in California, and I had to get back to have an MRI or a CAT scan or all that stuff done. And so,
adventure van.
Yeah. So that was the bummer about it. This was day 3 of a 7-day camp, and I'm super stoked to be there with my teammates, and we're having a good time. And Brandy was running SAG, which was working fantastic with the van all week. We had water everywhere. We had snacks and food everywhere because Brandy was there.
Yeah,
and
super nice.
We just had to go. I got to go, guys.
That was the right decision. I mean,
I know it was the right decision.
You would have been miserable.
I would have been miserable. If I had to stick around and wait for the flight to go home, it would have been worse.
That flight would have been awful.
Good
decision not to be there. Yeah.
Plus, okay, we're all cyclists. We know there's crashes. They don't need this reminder right in front of all my teammates that, hey, I just crashed.
Just bleeding on them.
I'm just bleeding on people.
Like limping out of the truck. Here's your water, man.
Sorry.
Be careful out there.
So it was good for us to go. So we rallied home, drove home 17 hours or something like that to get home.
Go straight through.
Yeah. Well, no, we stopped, in a rest area and slept for 7 hours and then drove all the way back. So
some of the sleeps are hard. I can't imagine it was easy.
I drove some of it even myself just because I couldn't lay down any longer, So I got home. I saw.
Good to be home. Got your dog.
Got my dog. She curled right up to me. She's kind of funny. She knows something's wrong. She won't leave my side.
Yeah.
She wants to be right next to me, which is kind of adorable.
Yeah, but she's like, "What the heck? I need to get my run in,
that's
man."
That's right. Why
you bleeding everywhere?
Leave the house.
What is this?
Anyway, the final results are I don't have a diagnosis yet. By the time that this podcast comes out, I will have had an MRI. It's Monday as we're recording this. I have an MRI scheduled tomorrow, and we'll be able to tell if I actually do have a fracture or if
eventually they'll read the MRI. It takes a little time.
Takes a couple days.
So maybe you'll post something on Wednesday or
Thursday or Friday. I might not know till Friday to really what the diagnosis is and what the deal is. So
okay,
so I'm just kind of waiting it out. In the meantime, I'm on crutches and I'm laying on the couch watching movies and bleeding everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. And you will be back. Yep, at some point.
So best case scenario, we're looking at a acetabular fracture.
Yep.
Worst case scenario, could it be acetabular fracture and labral tear?
Yeah, I could have torn the labrum, all the cartilage and muscle that holds the hip into place. I could have torn that.
Or it could just be a tear. But is there a chance that it could be both?
Yeah, there's a chance it could be both. And that'll be shown on the MRI. So I won't know until I see the MRI. So
recovery process for a labral tear is pretty significant, right?
Yes.
Evan, I mean,
if you get a labral repair, the recovery process can be a very long time. There are plenty of athletes out there that function at very, very high levels with labral tears. After an acute labral tear, you're looking at it. Really, really depends. This is not as easy to diagnose prognosis wise as an acetabular fracture.
Yeah.
As we were talking about earlier, this is why people joke, "Oh, I'd rather just break my clavicle than separate my shoulder."
Yeah.
And the reason is because a labral tear, everything that determines that prognosis is about your rehab and strengthening.
Right.
Resting would be, if we're talking about how they used to recover these in the 80s and 90s, resting and not moving from a labral tear for a long period of time would bump you back months and months in a recovery. That's obviously not the approach Lance is going to take, but that's the difference in prognosis. You could be looking at 2 to 3 months coming back strong from a labral tear as a cyclist, very different for runners, but as a cyclist, or you could be looking at 5 to 6 months before you're back to yourself.
Either way.
That's not going to be Lance's case, but my guess, just from the difficulty with weight bearing right afterwards, the location of your pain that you've been describing to, you're probably looking at acetabular fracture with some labral damage, but probably not a massive tear. If there's a massive tear, then you got some really, we know that your pain tolerance is solid, but that's,
I kind of doubt.
There's certain symptoms that, and you know these symptoms too. There's certain, if you had a massive flap tear of that labrum, there'd be certain sensations in that hip socket that you're getting. But yeah, you never know. Once you take a look in,
So we'll see what happens. I've resigned myself to the fact that I've probably lost most of the road season for this year and the mountain bike cross country season that I was gearing up for, but cyclocross.
Your training plan was 365 days away.
So 58-week training plan.
635-day training plan.
So we all know that cyclocross is the ultimate thought.
I'm best at that.
Well, it's just that taking a break right now is perfect.
Yeah.
If anything,
it'll work.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Think of it this way: back riding at a base level in 2 months, that puts you at March, April, end of April, beginning of May. You still have plenty of your summer.
Plenty.
You actually technically have then all of the summer.
Right.
Well,
now, you literally couldn't plan a break at a better time for cyclocross.
Yes.
But,
this could have happened in August, and that would have been awful. That would have been not good.
Yeah, no.
So
we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
We hope it goes well for you, Lance.
Thank you.
Oh, God. I feel for you.
See you in 2 months. No joke.
All right, let's jump into some lead out news. Evan, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. I'll take a Champ. Champ Bailey has a hip issue, I think, today, so I don't.
Champ might have some stuff to chime in. Champ, do you want to
Champ
Bailey here.
You have the loop results on
I've
there,
got.
right?
There's two things I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
One, Chloe Dygert from the Boise area broke another world record on the track and won
her own world record.
Her own world record that she had just set in preliminaries and the year before. To win the individual pursuit. I don't know what the distance was in the individual pursuit, but it's like
1K.
It's a 3. It was like a 3-minute, 17-second effort.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, never mind. Oh, well, then it would. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. What the
longer
distance
than 1K
was.
then. Yeah.
So that was super cool to see. Chloe Dygert wins the gold medal in the World Championships at the Track World Championships. The other race was one of the Spring Classics in Belgium. The Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. I already butchered
nailed
it.
No, nailed it. Just as long as you get Omloop. They just call it Omloop.
The Omloop.
So, yeah.
And it was won by a Trek Segafredo rider.
Stuyven.
Yeah, Jasper Stuyven.
Out sprinted. That is an awesome. You want to watch some high wattage sprint finish there.
Yeah.
God, those guys were putting out.
Pretty
Stuyven
amazing.
and Lampard are both big wattage type riders, your classic Belgian style race season dominant sort of riders. But oh my God, just the quads on these guys.
Yeah, there was 3 guys in this going into about 10K to go or so. And
yeah.
Then they got down to 4 or 5K, and somebody put in a big attack, and that kind of stretched everything out. And they spit one of the guys out the back. He got dropped, and then it was just the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Who was the one that put in the attack that caused the separation of the 2 from
Lampard? I think put in the attack. I could be wrong there.
Yes.
I'd have to watch the finish again.
Lampert was on the front,
and Stuyven followed.
Stuyven followed. Lampert decided, I just got to go. And so he went, but Stuyven came around him.
Yep. Yeah. And the women's Omloop race was that weekend as well. And Van Vleuten won.
Big surprise.
Van Vleuten. Yeah. I think I nailed that pronunciation.
A couple of fun facts about the Omloop race. Wout van Aert took 11th.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So
he's going to be there all spring.
He just kind of missed the final move, but he was right in it. Matthew Van Der Poel had either the flu or a cold and did not race. And Quinn Simmons, the 18-year-old from the U.S., he did
Colorado.
a whole bunch of work. He's a teammate of Jasper Stuyven's, and so he did a bunch of work for him.
Good.
So, yeah, it all worked out.
I know. I saw a little quote from Stuyven saying that the work that Simmons did. This is. I don't think America since Hincapie has really had
pretty
a
exciting
spring classic strong rider. This kid's going to be the next. I would love to say he's going to win Paris-Roubaix one day. He's so young and strong right now.
He's 18. Yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. From Durango, I think.
Yeah, from Durango. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yep. In quick non-cycling related news, the marathon trials were also this last weekend for 2020 Tokyo qualifications. The most runners they've ever had in the trials by a lot. There was 630 some total runners. Whoa. I think. Massive fields. Yeah. And there was the men's race was won pretty decisively by Rupp. Galen went off the front with like 5 or 6 miles left. When did Rupp go, Matt?
I would say
it was like 5 miles left.
I think 700 athletes total, and I think Galen went. It was interesting. He
kept on attacking and attacking.
He tested the water somewhere around 18, and it was basically like they were kind of going 5-minute pace, and he dropped it down by like 10 seconds or something like that. And these are rough numbers, but yeah, he and kind of no one went with him, and it kind of broke the field apart. And after that, there was basically like 4 or 5 guys.
Yep.
And then he settled right back in and was just like, all right, this group needs to kind of just stick together, and they were settled back into pace. And then
there was the 2 Army runners were with him, Career and Mayo, I think.
Yes, Mayo,
and then Abdi was with him too.
And Abdi Abdurrahman. And so and then I think around 22 he just was fine. He just went, and it was like. It was quite comfortable.
I hate to admit it, but I watched the whole race.
Did you?
Awesome race.
I'm sitting on my couch.
It's fun. It's fun watching. And the marathon trials awesome to watch because you see a lot of people that don't race all year and just save up for this race. So you see some names up there that are just going for it. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is Galen Rupp's legitimacy in question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I never was talked about.
A lot of people don't like it.
Me and Matt have talked about this. So I really liked. Like Jake Riley came back and
he ended up second.
Yeah, Jake Riley, love the guy.
Yeah,
Galen Rupp can't cheer for him.
That's just hard to cheer for because he was associated with Alberto Salazar. Yeah. He was an Alberto Salazar for athlete for a decade.
I think it's worse than that. I think he was Salazar's guy within the group. So Salazar coached 20 athletes. He didn't care that much about the 20 athletes. He cared about Galen Rupp.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's the dude.
That was his boy.
And there's just, if I want to play the rumor game, there's so many stuff where it's like Salazar giving Galen Rupp massages, and it's like, there's the testosterone cream floating around, and it's just like one of those things where it's like,
he's got asthma.
Well,
I don't know if I'm opening a bag of worms here.
You are,
totally. To see him win and to not hear it really talked about during the commentary, I'm like, wait a second.
People were way happier about Jake Riley coming through there and Abdi at the age of 43. I mean, Matt was talking about this. He raced Abdi.
Supposedly Salazar was there, and he's not allowed to be there.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, or I mean, he was.
He let's can just stand in the crowd.
Let's just say he was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Galen has a new coach. Wink, wink.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
He's
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Of course.
No. I think I don't know. I like to believe that everything's on the up and up, and so Galen, I've met him before. I mean, he lives in Portland. He seems super cool, super chill. I mean, it's just there's definitely some sketchy circumstances
there's some
there.
Question marks.
Sure. And I actually think that Salazar's had a pretty rough go of it. I think a lot of it's brought on by himself, but I think a lot of it is like that, he was pushing the line very, very dangerously.
Agreed.
So,
yep. The women's race was, if you're just talking about pure races, the women's race was awesome to watch.
None of the favorites. That's what was interesting is
Des Linden with a 2018 Boston Marathon winner.
She was a favorite.
She was in the conversation for most race, but then did not make the top.
She made the Olympics last time, I think.
Yeah, I think she ended up 5th.
No,
fourth.
She was fourth. Only by like 20 or 30 seconds. It was very close.
It looked like she could potentially
pull it off.
Yeah, pull it
but
off.
She didn't.
Yeah, it was close.
So the coolest result for me really was the second place finisher in the women's race.
Seidel or something?
Molly Seidel. Yeah.
She's
Notre Dame runner. So four-time NCAA champion.
Yeah.
But has never run a marathon.
Yeah.
And just crushed it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that you need to be an experienced marathon runner. I mean, we're seeing a lot of young, fast. You see this in the Kenyan and Ethiopians group. Young, fast.
I thought she might crack. She might crack at the end.
She held on. Which was great. But there was Tuliamuk and Seidel were 1 and 2, and then Kipyego was number 3. And the cool story about Kipyego, she's a full-time Uber driver. I thought that was a cool story from that. Yeah. Wait. It was Tuliamuk is the Uber driver. Kipyego just had her 3rd child.
Oh wow.
She's a mother of 3. Yes.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
All 3 of those top women. Anybody who just wants to look up cool stories, look up the stories behind those top 3 women. That was the coolest podium I think I've seen in the trials. Yeah,
cool.
A lot of well-rounded people.
Pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Champ?
Champ Bailey out.
I missed that. All right, let us jump into our topic for today. Topic is very timely. processing injuries.
Ah.
There's a lot to process.
This was
here.
not related. We had actually planned this 10 days ago. No, I'm joking. We did not.
Not for nothing. I've got a whole laundry list of stuff for us to go through and talk about in the future. And this was on there. And I'm like, well, I think now's a good time to talk about it. You've got, Matt's recently recovered from his little shoulder snafu, and I'm still dealing with all my shoulder crap almost 2 years later. And Lance is fresh off his little injury, and we've got Evan over here who better knock on some wood.
Hang on for dear life over here. Just knocking on wood.
Has worked with myself and has worked with Matt, and I maybe thinking possibly will work with Lance to a certain degree.
HIPAA. Yeah. Won't say anything.
But anyway, he can give us a little perspective on some of the injury-based stuff. So let's jump into this. We've got a loose bullet point list of items that we can talk about, but is there anything on there that really kind of sticks out to you? And Lance, is there anything that you want to talk about? I know that you're having kind of a rough go with this on a couple different levels.
Yeah.
So I want to just chat and see if we can help you out.
There's a couple of things. Certainly, I'm terribly disappointed because I'm probably fitter on the bike than I've ever been in my life right now.
Probably, you definitely are.
You are.
As a 50-year-old, I'm probably fitter than I ever have, and that was on purpose. I've been gearing up for this season. I'm trying to be ready for it, and I don't know how legitimate Training Peaks numbers are, but my fitness number on Training Peaks
was $1.5 billion.
Was 149. And
I have never seen 149 on anything.
and I usually mine are usually in the 90 to
just solid. Yeah, if you're in the 80s or 90s,
range,
that's
and
good.
it was 149, which means I'm either doing way too much or whatnot. So, of course, this has been very emotional for me and difficult to try to process because I don't know what my rehab looks like. I don't know how much I'm really going to lose. On the other hand, this is bike racing, and I don't want to say that you have to expect injuries in bike racing, but there's injuries.
Yep,
Stuff happens. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of
name one great cyclist that has gone through his career without a broken bone.
Right.
I could not think of one. There's no way you could name one.
You get injured, and I know, and I'm not a. I think I'm a very good bike handler, but I take risks, and I know what those risks involve. Those risks involve that I'm going to crash at some point. And, I've been really fortunate in the crashes I've had so far that it's just been on dirt or on gravel, and it's just skin. And it's just bruises and skin, and I can handle that. And this might be the first crash I've had that I might actually have to take some time off and rehab from. So that's been, I guess the things I wanted to say was, oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed that this happened. It definitely wasn't anybody else's fault. Do not blame.
What about me? I put that rock out there.
Matt is a question mark, always.
Was not Matt's fault. It was the rock's fault.
It was the rock's fault. I really should have seen the rock coming, but I didn't.
Oh,
We're going, 42 miles an hour.
I watched the video. You can't. There's nothing.
No,
nothing you can do.
It just,
and there's no point in even trying to. It happens. So
it happens, and it could happen to anybody. And so that's the other thing is I realize, hey, this is part of bike racing. I don't want to scare people off from bike racing, but there's crashes. Stuff happens. And I knew that it would happen to me at some point. I've always said that I was expecting a lot this season, and I always said that's if I stay healthy.
Yeah.
If I stay healthy, and that could be a sickness or an injury, and I just happened to have an injury. So,
do you feel like, well, at least it wasn't a car? I mean, I don't know why I think about that sometimes, but it's like at least it's not like evil human behavior.
Extremely fortunate the way this happened. That the pavement was smooth, that it wasn't on a corner, that I didn't hit a guardrail, that I didn't hit my head harder, that I didn't slide into the rocks of the side of the road, that there wasn't a car coming, that my teammate didn't crash in front of me and I crashed into him, that my bouncing bike down the road didn't take out the guy behind me. There's so many things that could have made it, go so much worse, and none of that happened. So
I think when you're talking about how to manage too, which was Jake's first point on here, I think with how like unfortunate obviously it is, the only thing you can do at that time, and this is for all injuries, regardless if it's an overuse injury or an acute injury meaning something happened.
Yeah.
You're talking about that early recovery phase. Sleep recovery is very, very important. Rest recovery is very important. If you are stressed about the situation surrounding the accident, if that is on your mind all the time, like with Jake's unfortunate situation, which was also medically, financially, there were a lot of other factors in Jake's too. So when Matt says at least it wasn't a car, that is a good point, because that at least takes some of that. Like Lance can't regret anything from this. The Rock was there. You weren't going to dodge it. Nothing was going to happen. It's not like The Rock was malicious towards you in any way. You don't get to sue The Rock. There's like, at least you can look at this as like just, it's behind you. You get to focus on your recovery, because that cortisol dump you get from the stress involved with injury recovery is a big part of it. It really is.
And you're able to sleep?
Yeah, I can't sleep.
Which I'm not going to poke fun at Jake, but like, not.
Well, this is
not fun or funny. But like when I had my shoulder thing, I could sleep, and I just kept thinking like, I know Jake couldn't sleep, and that's just miserable. It's not cool. Like, and when you talk about like being able to recover, we talk about this all the time. Like sleep's number one thing, and that was basically taken away from you.
Yep.
I still have issues with that today.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I can't sleep on one side, but like I could sleep, and so you're probably.
Well, Jake's also had the nerve damage with that. Obviously, is a big driving factor of that too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I think when we're talking about, I mean, I'm staring at 3 people at the table that have all had major recovery stories in the last 365 days. Well, Jake's being longer than that even, but yeah, I mean, you're looking at. As it's also nice in how to manage to have a support group around you too. As Lance is going to find out here soon, is, I mean, the worst thing that could happen would be, God, you have this and everybody goes on a 3-week cycling trip just away from you. You're just by yourself, not able to talk or hang out or process what happened. So yeah,
it could.
Yeah,
it does happen. Worse. I mean, you kind of feel like you're out of sight. You feel like everybody's going on and they're moving on without you. It's hard. You're going to find yourself like, I don't even want to go on Strava. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to see what they're doing because I'm missing out on all that stuff.
You should avoid Strava. Just let it go, man.
Genuinely, you should actually. Yeah. You should probably take it off your phone.
You could delete it off your phone
for a
bit.
Just
for 6 weeks or
so. You don't need to be on there. But I stopped looking at it. There was a point in time where I didn't look at it for months.
Yeah.
And like I would open it when I heard that there was a good ride or something that people did, or a race or something like that, and I'll go out there and just check that or see a couple pictures, a couple of kudos, and then just move on. It was hard. It was really hard to process. And when you're kind of stuck and you're like, things hurt, I just took, and this is another thing, like this is like the focal point of your life is your cycling. I mean, I know that your family is the focal point, but like in terms of you, like your persona, what makes you, what you identify with now, it's like you as a cyclist. I mean,
yes,
you're pouring 20 plus hours a weekend, and then when you're not on the bike, you're working on the recovery aspect, and you change the way that you eat, you change the way that you rest, and you sleep. Everything that you're doing, that is your life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, none of it matters anymore because you can't do it.
You just get to really focus on the recovery portion of it now. Just think of it that way. You just took the riding portion out. Now you get to really focus on the recovery.
This is where you get to make a decision, though. It's like you can wallow in that. You can get down on yourself, and you can get down on what happened and be sad for yourself and sad for the fact that, you're going to miss a few races and you're not going to maybe hit some numbers that you want to. And all the fitness that you worked for is going to be gone. But that will come back.
Yeah.
You're fortunate enough, like it's not like you lost a leg.
No.
So you just got to let it recover. Yeah. And it's how you kind of like manage your feelings, and it's how you divert your attention. It's how you stay focused on how you're going to come back.
Yeah. I think it was important for me to go off in the corner and cry for a little bit.
You have to.
Yeah.
That's a part of the process.
Just be upset that, okay, I've just lost something, but I need to get these feelings out. I need to let it flow out and then move on and be done with it and focus on the next step.
Yeah, that's where you start pulling back on the yoke so you can pull yourself out of that nosedive. Not for nothing, this podcast right here was like huge. It was instrumental for me because I was in a bad place for a long time. And the fact that I knew that I had that at least like once a week where I could sit down with you guys and chat, and then I could like kind of work on it a little bit behind the scenes and just kind of, it diverted my attention and it made me want to, continue pushing forward, and I get to hear your stories. I mean, that kept me motivated, and I'm still working on it. I'm still going through that to this day. Granted, yes, I was able to go out and ride 24 hours in a training camp thing, but I'm still dealing with the ill effects of what I went through. So I just don't want you to get too far into the weeds with respect to the whole, oh man, I just lost all this stuff that I did. I don't want you to get too down on yourself. That stuff will come back pretty damn quick. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see what the diagnosis is, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then after that, start a plan.
Yeah.
That's the nice part. It's
Go
like
from
you're
there.
kind of in a crappy part right now where you don't have a diagnosis.
I don't have any answers just yet.
But into this week you will, and then it's like, hey, I can plan. You can start to plan stuff, and I think there's some real value in just mentally being like, I can put this on a calendar if you want to. Like you can put your recovery on, and that is huge.
Absolutely.
Right. Like I'm going to do this and this and this, and like rehab is here, and then it's done here, and like you can start to work with that. Like to me, that's good.
And there's still things that you can be doing right now to maintain some certain amount of fitness. I mean, there's certain amounts of strength training that you can be doing. There's certain amounts of core strengthening where you can, disengage the whole hip thing, but you can start working on other things.
We're going to swim so much.
Take that pole boy. There you go.
Oh.
Matt, what did you do to divert your attention when you were going through your recovery?
I think my situation was very different than Lance's because there was this, again, I'm a horrible person. There was literally, and I know Evan just saw it in my eyes, like there was just this moment of like relief that I didn't have to race the Ironman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just crap, but
Matt's coping, which is hanging out with me during the week. It was great.
It was like, this was going to be a bad Ironman. I was going to basically hobble through it. And then it was like, I don't have to do this.
I have to do it.
And then I was like, maybe I'll be able to get my money back. That didn't happen. But still, it was just like, I'm going to be, I guess I'm still going to go to Whistler and I'm going to have this arm in a brace and all this stuff. And we were busy, which I think, anytime you're busy with, whatever trip or whatever it is, that kind of helps. And then I mean, not that I'm not into it now or anything, but you dive into making some YouTube videos and just doing fun stuff.
Distracting yourself. Exactly.
I made that video where I'm like, had the sling on and I'm eating ice cream at the
it was great. I love that video.
At the Ironman race, and I'm like, I made that pretending like I was like not watching the race at all, just staying home, like just eating ice cream. But I did, I filmed that the day before or something like that, and then I did go out and take footage of the race. And there's so much stuff that you can do, even if you're hobbling around. It's like you suffer through. Like I was even trying to bring like a gimbal around with like one arm, like gimbaling. Like it was, and I have that huge gimbal, so it was like really hard to do any of this stuff. But you do it because it's a challenge. It's part of what you do.
Yep.
So
and I think at the end of the day, Matt, you had like a great recovery. It's actually one that I referenced to a couple of my cyclists on, like getting back to swimming was an impressive comeback.
That was really interesting. And Lance, you're gonna feel the same way, where it's like you get eventually when you get to the point where you get back on the bike and you're like, oh, I can do some things, and you almost feel guilty about it, right? Like, I mean, for one, like Jake just had this horrendous crash, and I'm like getting back in the water and can swim. Like that's
5 weeks.
Not fair.
Yeah,
that's not fair to anyone. But then like I almost wanted to keep it a secret because I was like, I just did 8x100. Guess what? I pushed the last one as hard as I could, and I like told you, but I didn't want to tell anyone else. And I was like, I went like 130 on the last one. I was like, that's like legit
fast.
swim. I was like, that's not that far off from where I was. And I mean, yes, my shoulder still hurts every single day.
Yeah,
but I can still swim. Like I can still do. And so I think some of that will happen to Lance, where it's like, I wasn't that far off of like some KOM thing that like, when you get back on the bike and once you can start rolling again, the muscles are going to be off for a little while, especially because you're used to biking 200 miles a week. And so,
or 3.
And so, but I mean like, you're going to feel awkward.
Your body and your aerobic system does not forget that fitness.
No.
It's not that fitness does not just disappear.
My wolf strap is like, you are recovered. Get moving. Expect a worthy effort today.
But I feel like
get on the armorgometer.
When you first start back, when you're so consistent like you've been in the past, it's not that like everything's going to feel great as soon as you come back. No, you're going to feel super awkward on the bike. Like you're going to be like, is my cassette off, or like what's the deal? Like you're just gonna feel off on the bike, and it might be a new bike too, so it's all these little things I think are gonna feel off, but then a week later you're gonna be like, wait a minute,
That motor pattern will come back. The motor pattern will come back.
And you're going to feel guilty, and you're going to be like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this on the podcast because they're going to, you know. Like, that's how I felt.
That's going to hate me.
Yeah.
Even more.
Possible.
The most hated man in America.
Speaking of getting fitness back, how long, let's say that you're going to be down for, say, 2 months.
Yeah.
And let's say that you can get back and start getting back into a reasonable training program. Any general consensus here on how long it takes to get your fitness back? We'll say within a couple percentages points of where he was at prior to the crash.
Yeah.
If he's down for 2 months, I mean, there are some people that say that, all right, well, if you're down for 2 months, it's going to take you 4 to 5 months to get your fitness back. Does that ring true with you, Evan?
I'll be the unpopular one on here and say that the problem with cycling recoveries is this is where we get into a little bit more of the type A nature with cycling.
Yep.
The amount of variables and factors that go into you returning to fitness is innumerable. So even at the very top level, somebody we bring up a lot on this show, Van Aert.
Yep.
You tell me that injury and tell me where his fitness is right now. Yeah, that wouldn't be in a textbook. There'd be no calculation that could say Van Aert's coming back and racing the classic strong. But if you're talking about let's
place
use
in the top 5 in the World Championships and just take 11th place in a sprint classic.
Exactly. So when you're talking about Lance's level of fitness that he had before this, and like you talked about being more of a high volume rider, which does factor into this because that's what Lance's system responds well to is volume.
Yeah.
You're looking at, I mean, you know, let's say that you're back on the bike, and I mean, I like to be super optimistic here. I'm not even going to give a weak amount, but let's just say when you're back on the bike, you're looking at like 10% increases in volume over 2-week periods.
Yeah.
For a safe recovery back to cyclocross intensity. Cycling, you're going to have 2 things. It's going to be what is the tissue tolerance for volume and what is the tissue tolerance for intensity. And those are sometimes what I think PTs that don't work with enough endurance athletes, they don't understand how to balance those two. The rehab does not end when Lance's hip can move at baseline range of motion and he feels strong to me. That to me is actually when the rehab starts.
Yeah.
So this is the difference between a PT that works with endurance athletes, like I said, and that one that doesn't. Is if you're an injured endurance athlete, you better make sure your PT and your doc know what an endurance athlete goes through. Because I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who's working with an elite 200-meter sprinter who has a hamstring strain. Lance could look great on the table, but what does Lance look like at day 3 of a 300-mile week, 6 weeks from when I discharge him from PT?
Right.
That's way more important to me than your early recovery is going to go fine. Like you're healthy and everything. There's very little we could do to actually screw that up prior to, you know, contrary to popular belief. If you are a strong, healthy guy going through an injury without certain complications, there are certain complications that can throw major monkey wrenches into recovery.
Yeah.
But you're going to come back fine. The issue is, do you jump back too quick in that training and irritate that tissue tolerance response? Which is, if you go from, hey, every 2 weeks we're increasing 10% volume and we are now starting to introduce 30-second intervals, 60-second intervals, 90-second intervals, because if you imagine that tissue tolerance just like you do if you were building muscular strength, that's exactly how you should approach that comeback to endurance strength. Now, if you do 1 week where you jump up 45% because Jake's going on a 90-mile ride and you're like, I want to hang on with Jake.
Right.
And you're cranking out of the saddle at over 300 watts for 5-6 minutes at a time and it feels good right there, you come back and shut yourself down for 72 hours after that. You've exceeded that tissue tolerance.
I see.
So to answer in a long-winded way to answer Jake's question, if you're talking about that comeback to full fitness, it's map it out and then go by feel. But mapping it out, you should be within 4 to 5% always of what you predicted. Because if you're shooting, if you said, okay, I'm starting at a 50-mile week, a 60-mile week, an 80-mile week, a 100-mile week, a 120-mile week, 250-mile week, I can promise you that 250-mile week out of nowhere is going to be an issue.
Sure.
So, yeah. It's just talking about that slow, steady.
We can ask Jake about that.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
You're like 10 hours a week, 11 hours a week, 12 hours a week, 27 hours a week.
And the arm is hanging today.
Yeah.
These guys made me do it, though.
I was going to say, yeah, as I go through that. But yeah, I mean, that's when you're talking about building back an endurance athlete, there's not a an exact percentage answer. There's a framework that you go off, and that framework is different for each patient. Yeah.
I think that feeds right into what the next question was, is just the dangers of being too aggressive during your rehab process, and really like, just don't get ahead of yourself. Connect with somebody that knows what they're doing, what they're talking about, and let them help guide you through this process, because for the most part, we are all a bunch of knuckleheads. And we always want to go out there and we think that we can do more than we probably should be doing. And that's where you take that one little step forward in your brain that actually was 3 steps backwards in reality. To be able to divert that or to bypass that would be fantastic. So
I think I had I'm reading Dina Castor's book right now.
Oh yeah,
Let
you should
Your
have
Mind
borrowed
Run.
it. I've got it.
I'm about 150 pages into it. John
Good
Hoffman
book.
let me borrow it.
Okay.
But she talks a little about injury recovery during that, and I loved how the more I've been around, especially runners, but just any endurance athlete in general. I mean, you're especially talking about cyclists too. There's don't treat yourself fragile. Understand that the human body adapts and it's very strong, but also be nice to yourself during that process. Sure. Understand that your body's having to recover. So if you understand, hey, my body's strong as heck, it's going to recover from this. But if I'm mean to it and I beat the living heck out of it, I got to pay the piper at some point. Endurance athletes know their own bodies very, very well. Also, be honest with yourself and know your body and understand that, well, I rode 5 hours last week. I don't think I can actually ride 16 hours this week. And don't sit there and heroize yourself, you know.
Right.
Don't think you're going to have a Van Aert recovery because
I'm not his age.
And also, I'm sure he's got some help along the way.
I'm sure.
I'll just leave it at that. But yeah.
Okay. If you're alluding to drugs or something like that.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just alluding to the fact that he's probably had some help along the way. That's all.
I'm just thinking like.
And a whole team.
And a whole team around him. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Give me a shot into my shoulder. Anytime. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know.
B vitamins.
Don't tell me what it is.
Yeah.
B vitamins. Just shoot me up, Doc.
Alberto, just give me a leg massage.
Where's Salazar when you need him? Where's Salazar?
He's got some magic hands, man.
So to cap that off, Evan, would you have some best practices for rest and recovery?
Yeah. I really think when you're talking about rest and recovery, so let's say that you were somebody who typically slept 6 to 7 hours a night. Obviously, life still goes on after injury. It's not like you can all of a sudden start sleeping 10, but you should definitely increase that sleep by 10 to 20%. So if you're a 6 to 7 hour night sleeper, you need to be 8.
I did sleep 10 hours the other night.
Yeah,
when I normally sleep 8.
This is where a whoop would actually a whoop is way more important, I think, during an injury recovery more than anything else, to really make sure you're staying honest with yourself there.
And my day strain, with the Roop strap, you get a day strain number, how hard you've worked that day. Like through training camp, my day strain numbers were like 20.7. 21 being the absolute highest strain you could absolutely do. The 21 is their limit. Like nobody ever gets 21. And I had like 7 days of 20.7 in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
And the last 3 days have been 4.2.
There you go. Yeah. Way decreased.
Because I've just laid on the couch and watched movies.
This is also the tough part with this is, so we'll use Lance as an example here. Not to, I know we talk about we talk about weight a lot on here, but I want to talk about me not being a nutritionist. Let me really stand up. I am not a nutritionist. I am giving certain ideas for people here. This is not me giving. If you have nutrition questions, you need to be asking a nutritionist. On a real side note, that has really made me mad on social media lately. There's some people giving very specific nutrition advice in the triathlon world.
There always is that
have
crap.
No business doing that. But anyway, so when you're talking about coming down from, especially a training camp, got like 20 some hours a week of riding, your body doesn't just shut down that drive to be taking in that amount of, especially carbohydrates,
right?
Especially with the kind of high efforts you guys were doing. This would be the one time I would say during a recovery process, really looking at your carbohydrate intake and dropping your carbohydrate intake and really increasing your protein and fat intake. That depends on the person. That depends on your diet prior. That depends on how much happiness you get out of carbs too. Because if you're making yourself super sad during recovery, that's not good either.
No.
But I think looking at that in yourself is worthwhile, as saying, okay, what was my typical carbohydrate intake during training so I could sustain these efforts? I maybe need to switch out a little bit and really increase my protein intake, my fat intake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a suggestion for people going through this.
Yeah.
Also, naturally high levels of carbohydrate intake are a little bit more inflammatory. So if you're looking at slowly decreasing the inflammation in your body, you should look at a more base diet, which there's lots out there, and I would suggest consulting nutritionists for that for anybody with big questions.
You're doing a lot of vegetable type stuff.
I am. I'm still eating vegan.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be helpful
and
as well.
It's really look at some good protein options and just increase it basically.
Sure. Yeah. And that's treated me really well. I don't miss my non-vegan lifestyle, and so I'm just going to stick with it for as long as I feels good.
Yeah, I think
as long as it's treating me right. So.
Yeah,
I've been vegan for like the last hour during this podcast, and I've really missed.
Nailed it.
I have missed my non-vegan lifestyle in 60 minutes.
Oh, let's look at this from a different perspective. What do we do about all of our broken equipment?
That's a great question.
I'm guessing that Lance may or may have not looked into some possible options.
I haven't even thought about it yet.
Really?
So,
did you put pressure on the handlebars though?
No,
you can't put your weight on the handlebars.
Yeah.
That's mistake number one.
Yeah.
Well, my stem and my fork and all that stuff and handlebars, they're all good.
Oh, that's good. He didn't put pressure on the handlebars then.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Don't look at the handlebars.
What took the brunt was my front wheel, my seat, and my top tube.
Were you putting pressure on the seat?
Yes, I was sitting on the seat.
Well, there was
but
a problem.
I believe the seat hit the pavement after it flipped.
That was the issue.
Yeah. The bike flipped and it landed on the seat. I don't think it landed anywhere else. I think it hit the seat.
So
like my drivetrain is good.
That's good.
The drivetrain's good. The cranks are good. The pedals are good.
So potentially just new frame.
Yeah.
It was end over end cartwheeling.
End over end cartwheeling.
How many times did it go? I think you said like 4 or something like that.
It went.
Who went further? You or the bike?
The bike went further.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It went much further, and it was he's fine. This is awesome.
Yeah, can we?
Matt's got his 4-year-old with him today because there were whatever. Matt's got his 4-year-old with him today. His name is Dash. He is adorable, and he keeps making some noise in the background. He keeps walking in the room. It's Dash. We love Dash. We just let him sing in the background. Yeah.
I don't know who he's talking to.
I don't know who he's
talking to himself.
There's nobody else in the house but Dash and the dog. Don't talk to the dog.
He's talking to Zeke. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know the frame is broken. I'm not sure why the frame broke. I don't know if it was me hitting the top tube or if I don't know. It's funny that it was only the top tube that took carbon fiber damage.
I will say I'm one of those guys that's like ridiculously always looking at the positive sides of things, which is probably, it's annoying,
but it's also a good thing.
Picking out a new bike is fun.
Yeah.
And there's some motivation there. It's
sure.
like you get this new bike and you're going to want to ride it.
Right.
So I think that there's some, so people always talk about like, you don't need a new bike, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you're right. Like, no one really needs this new bike, all this stuff. Like you have other bikes. You can
technically
buy a used
all
bike,
you need in the
stuff.
world is food. So,
but I think there's some real value to having a new bike and being like, this makes me want to ride more. Like this makes me want to get out there.
Sure.
And so you have this to look forward to.
It's interesting. We had 15 teammates, and everybody looked at the bike and looked at me and talked to me, and
bike obsessed.
Everybody had a different opinion about the bike.
Oh yeah.
Many said, you know what, this is fixable. You can take this down. We've got a place called Ruckus Composites here in Portland that can fix carbon fiber. And many said that, yes, this is fixable. And many others said, like, pulled me aside and said, do not ride that bike again. So so I got this big range of like advice as to what to do with the bike. I probably won't ride the bike again.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that, though. When you think about somebody's means, if somebody's just scraping by and they spent their life savings on their bike, which you shouldn't do that, but
this is true.
They want to get that bike fixed and they want to try and maintain that without having to come out of pocket. Let's just be honest. Lance is in a station of his life where he could afford a new bike, and there are certain things that maybe he could take off there or not, but it might be best just to be done with it. You can salvage certain parts off of it if you want, but you can also take the good stuff off it and sell it, and then just move on to something new.
else.
I've got a bike for you. Hey, now,
it's the steel
specialized.
Don't
get too excited over there. Hold on a second.
I think last week I tried to sell you my steel bike.
You did try to
It's aluminum, actually.
Oh, it's aluminum,
yeah,
even worse.
The 20
steel would have been fine.
The 2011 frame, I believe. Allay Specialized.
Okay.
Don't get too excited. I'll sell
Yeah.
it to you for $5,000.
Nope.
So you could have it fixed and put on the trainer and leave it on the trainer.
That's true.
That's my plan for my
Yeah.
Trek Speed concept. I'm
Well, you just
scared
don't
to
need
look at the handlebars.
Well, you don't need to put any pressure on the handlebars when you're on the trainer, at least.
Yeah.
I already have a retired bike on my trainer.
I know.
You don't need to go fix or spend what $500, $600, $700 on fixing that
To
frame.
fix it,
just
yeah.
to put on the trainer. Yeah, you've already got something there.
Yeah.
I spent like close to $200 to buy this new stem for this effing Trek bike, and that was with the Trek discount that they gave me. Thanks, Trek.
Thanks,
We
Trek.
love you. We love you here.
We're big. We're really big Trek fans on this podcast, actually.
I did check into my homeowner's insurance to see if there was a way possibly to
write it off,
or to have my homeowner's insurance cover the bike or the bike frame, because that bike frame's like $7,000.
It's a nice bike.
The frame module is $4,500.
Okay,
before
well,
discount.
I'd like to exaggerate. That bike frame was
it's
14
20
grand.
it's
Jake just said
$20K.
20,000.
I think I heard 40. I heard him say 40 something.
$350,000 bike frame.
So, and with my homeowners and policy, no, it is not
Oh,
covered. No.
okay.
So we called our insurance guy and checked. If the bike was stolen and missing,
Right.
that's different than I crashed it. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I went and chucked it into the ravine and didn't find it, it's a different story. But I can't do that because I just outed myself on this podcast.
I could edit that out.
What
if you want.
what if I took it and threw it into the ravine?
You take it and check it.
What if I drove my car through your fence and stole your bike?
The other thing, the wheels, I love the wheels. They were Head Vanquish 4
They're awesome
wheels.
I think maybe the rear
Head
wheel
Vanquish
is
4. The rear wheel I think is still okay, although there's several spokes that are about to break, but that were about to happen beforehand.
Okay.
But does Head have some kind of crash replacement something?
I believe they do. I'd have to call and check
check.
with them to confirm exactly what that would entail.
I know Envy does.
Envy does, but not
And
Head.
BMC does too for your bike
BMC
too.
does.
So
Yeah, it's something
If you
to think about.
Well, I just think it's cool for you to be able to kind of go take a look at new stuff.
Yeah.
So
Here's the other interesting thing about the equipment. I did have the my Garmin 830 head unit on.
Yep.
And Jake, tell me your experience, because I have incident detection set for it, where if you crash your bike, it sends a message to the people you have designated as your
contact people.
People. And sometimes if you stop too fast, or if I'm mountain biking,
yes,
it'll go off, and
This
you have
is
to
my problem with
you have
it
to
is-
turn off the incident detection. But not this time. Actually, you can see in my video, you can hear in my video, the GoPro video, I crash, I skid along the pavement, I yell some expletives, I come to a stop, and almost immediately you hear the Garmin incident detection alarm
it's like
going
beep,
off. Yeah,
beep, like it's
it's
gonna
like
go
ringing.
Sing. Yeah.
So we called Brandy pretty quickly.
Is she on? She's got to be on your list, right? Like she's the first one.
Brandy and Jake are
Yeah.
my contacts.
Good. That's good. Good
And-
choice.
Yeah, and I thought
I didn't make the list.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You know how your phone works.
You'd have to-
I'll check it like that evening.
So I'll pick it up from right here if you want.
Yeah.
So I was already down at the car because Lance was with the group and they were doing one extra climb, and I didn't want to do said extra climb because my shoulder wasn't feeling it. So the alternate route was one less climb. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Did that. We got to the bottom, and I was just getting ready to put my bike in the adventure van because I was riding with Lance that day. And all of a sudden, I didn't even have my phone on me. It went to my Garmin watch. So it goes through to my phone, and then my phone sends the signal to my watch, and it's buzzing. I look down, I'm like, what's that? And it's like incident detection, Lance Hepler. I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And I literally threw my bike in the back of the van and I said, Brandy, I think we need to go. And she's like, what? And I'm like, just whatever. And like, we're already getting ready to start driving back up there. And then that's when Gary,
called.
We were already getting ready to go because we got that notification. I'm like, if they call us and they tell us it's a false alarm, that's fine, but we need to get up there and we can turn around if need be.
That's interesting.
So
yeah,
it's just, my problem with it is it's like 9 out of 10 times or more than that, it's false alarm.
Right.
But
in this situation,
but if you have a wife that freaks out when you have You know, I mean,
well, I got another story here.
Or a husband that freaks out.
Or a husband
I would freak out if I got one of those. Like if I'm checking my phone, that would scare me to death if Cassie was out on a ride and I had to get a response like that.
We won't talk about the 2 slashed tires that I got while I was on this ride. We were just like talking about like the tubeless trends and how we needed flats, and I had 2 of them. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The second,
I was about to talk to you about tubeless after this too. Really, you had 2 tubeless slashed?
I think it was just unfortunate.
It was unfortunate. Nobody else did. Just Jake.
No,
okay.
I was going to switch to
tubeless for my race wheels this year.
All the other flats were because of tubed, and if you were on a tubed tire, you would have had just the same.
It would have been exactly the same. Okay.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I was the very first day. I get like not even a mile away from the house, and it was about 100 yards from where I got my slashed tire the year prior. Literally 100 yards from where it happened last year. And we had to ride into the vacuum bike shop. Store to get it. Well,
that's the day.
100 yards from there, the same thing. Tires get slashed. Right back to the house. Lose the whole group. Everybody just takes off, and they keep going. I'm like, and then someone came back to ride with me. No, just go. I don't mind. I'll ride by myself today. Not a big deal. I've got it all on my computer. Rode back to the house. 15 minutes later, I got a new tire put on there. Thankfully, Lance had a tire that I could borrow. Got it all charged up and the bead set and got the sealant in there and good to go. 15, 20 minutes back out on the road. And I'm riding down the road. And I'm trying to get back on a course. I'm really close to where it happened, where the tire got slashed. And I noticed that the Garmin was not picking up the route, so I had to start it over and pick up the route. And in the process of starting it over, when I stopped, it did that whole incident detection. I didn't even notice it though because I was like turning the Garmin.
You stopped quickly.
I stopped quickly, and then I turned the Garmin off, and then I turned it back on. And evidently, before I was able to tell it not to send out the thing, it sends a notification to my wife, and then I get started back up. And as I'm waiting for the route to load, I get a text message. She's like, "Please tell me this isn't a joke." And she sends me a screenshot
of the thing.
I'm like, "Yeah, sorry about that." So
I've had my 820. Like, you know how sometimes the screen just becomes stupid unresponsive. Like that computer's the worst, and it's like counting down, and you're like, "Come on, something like." Come back, like something work, and then it's just like fires it off to my wife. Freak out session.
What's interesting with this situation is I got back to my bike before it sent the message, and I actually picked up the bike and I looked at it and I'm like, I'm just gonna let it send the message.
Yep.
Because I crashed and
it's legit.
I can't ride this bike down.
Nope.
So.
That would have been awfully uncomfortable.
No, there's just seat rails.
I'm sure you would have figured out very quickly that you had a fractured hip then at that point.
I would have. I could have coasted all the way down.
Let's turn over this pedal. Oh my God.
So they've added some of the incident detection into helmets, right? Is that correct?
That's what I thought.
I think Specialized is doing it now. Yeah.
Specialized is doing it, and I think my little fancy helmet does it if you set it up.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, this stuff is good when it works.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
all of us are.
I'll take the false positives for the situation that we had all day long. I mean, could it be perfect, better? Yeah, sure. But
what was good was you and Brandy were already gearing up and heading towards me when we finally decided to call.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we need to call Brandy and have her.
Did you talk to her? Because sometimes
I did not.
Okay, that might scare.
Teammate. So, and another thing to go along with that, though, is the fact that Lance and I both have iPhones, and we use that Find My Friends thing. We're connected on there, so I always know where Lance is at. And Gary just said, "Oh yeah, we're up the road." He didn't know exactly how far down he was, and the first thing I did, because Brandy wanted to drive, and I'm like, "All right, I could have to calm her down here a little bit because her husband's crashed." I'm like, "Please, let's not get too ahead of ourselves." But I'm sitting co-pilot, and the first thing I did was pulled up the Find My Friends, and they're. Bing, there's Lance. Directions to Lance. It told me exactly how far away you were. I think it was like 4.5 miles or something like that. We just started charging up the hill, and there you were.
Yeah,
right where
that's super nice.
That was super nice.
I think everyone that's listening, if you have the option to do that, Find My Friends switched over to Find My.
Just Find My, I think.
It's just called Find My.
And that's a great app, and we use it because sometimes you just want to find another cyclist out on the road, and so.
Did they take away the friends just in case you're not friends with that person?
Because you can have people and devices.
Right.
You can. I can find my iPad, or I can find my AirPods. You can find that stuff on here if they've connected.
So Lance and Jake and I can all see where each other are all the time.
Yep.
And Evan, we'll get you there someday.
I was actually going to trade in my smartphone for a flip phone here soon. So if you can track that,
I've shared my location with him. It's just a matter of you.
I've shared it with Talk a couple times before rides, and Dustin and David. So yeah. I've done that.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a helpful
highly
thing.
recommend it for you and your cycling friends. And it's just, there's so many different ways that you can use it, and don't get all paranoid about people snooping on you, because people don't really care as much as you think they do.
That is true.
I've got the same few routes. If somebody wants to kidnap me, it'd be pretty easy to figure out where I'm at. Yeah.
All right, a couple last little things here before we wrap this up. Just how to manage the scene of an accident. I felt like that went really smoothly, and I felt like everybody, for the most part, did a good job. The only concern I had was the fact that you got up and you started cruising around before we even knew, did you have a concussion? Did you have a neck injury? Were there broken bones? I mean, you wanted to be okay.
I wanted to be okay. So I hit the pavement. I skidded. As soon as I stopped moving, I sat up, and like I said, I felt my shoulders, I felt my legs, and thought, oh my gosh, I'm not hurt. This is fantastic. So I stood up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. Same thing. Had like flipped over.
Well,
like knew that I was skinned up, but I was like, I might be okay.
Well, I'm in the road. I didn't want to get hit by a car, and B, I knew that Gary Cornelius was right behind me. I knew he wasn't far behind me. I didn't want him to hit me either, so I wanted him to get out of the way. And Gary, as soon as he saw me stand up, he rolled right up to me and said, Lance, sit down. Go over there and sit down. You need to get off your feet. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm okay. I was stubborn and didn't want to be injured. And so, but yeah, he immediately told me to stop and sit down, and then made sure that we weren't losing our minds. Everybody was calm. And that's when it's like, okay, I'm going to call Brandy. And then when he called Brandy, he didn't freak her out either.
Yeah, his words were, "We had a mechanical. Can you come pick us up or pick somebody up?"
He chose his words very carefully.
Yeah. That's probably the most important thing at the scene, is to make sure that when you call said loved one, it's a calming call. Like when we called Kristen after Matt went down, I was on the phone. I was like, hey, Matt went down. He's okay. He's, right here talking. He can even talk on the phone to you right now. He's doing okay, but I just said the location. When you get a chance, come pick us up. It's not an emergency. I've got water for, like, just everything you can do reassuring wise. And Kristen's a medical professional too. So like Matt already knows, like, Kristen's like, all right, I'll be there.
She knows it's like,
she was not stressed about the situation.
She gets a phone call during a ride. Like I always tell her, like, make sure you have your phone on. I'm heading out for a ride.
Yeah. And so she picked up right away when I called her.
Yeah.
So.
And she also knows, like, she doesn't want to get a phone call from me while I'm out biking. So that, that's usually
let alone near Lucia Falls, about as far away as we could be.
It was a little ways away.
Yeah.
I was super lucky though that Gary got there and calmed everybody down. I'm also very lucky that shortly after Gary, Dr. Chris Hannell rolled right up, and I had a doctor right there, and he pulled me aside and just ran me through a whole bunch of.
Did he just?
Yes, he
cervical
did.
fracture stuff.
Yep. Yeah, just making sure that
at least 45
my
degrees
cranial
of
nerves were
rotation.
working properly. That my everything.
Don't let Hannell listen to this, because it'll go right to that guy's the best.
He's freaking awesome.
The best.
Yep. Okay, get this. We get done. And what does Hannell do? He puts me and Brandy in his car. He drives an hour. Everybody else goes back to the house to like recover and get some food and relax.
He's fine. He's fit.
He drives me and Brandy to urgent care. He sat through all the urgent care doctors with me. Once their doctors left, he like re-explained the stuff that was happening. Then, I mean, are you kidding?
He's like the best.
He was just,
can't ask for a better friend.
No, he was just fantastic.
Good person.
I can't thank him enough for what he did. And then he drove us home and made sure we got. I mean, he was awesome. Yeah. So I was super fortunate to have those guys there who managed the scene right, who managed me properly, managed my wife properly, and my team is awesome.
Good team.
Yeah.
I can't.
Solid group of individuals.
It really is.
Do you want to know how a poorly? So we just talked about wonderful scenarios on how to manage this. When I was at Ohio Northern at the age of 19, probably my smartest years of my life. I think 19 and 20 is when I hit my peak of intelligence. And I was out on a ride in Ada on my usual loop at probably the furthest point away near Lafayette, which is a very, very small town. And there were two young boys, about probably 10 and 12 years old, on their dirt bikes, kind of riding on and off the road in front of me, kind of messing around. And I think I may have told this story before, parts of this. So one of them ramps off the side of the road, ramps back on the road, and then kind of swerves and comes to a dead stop about 10 feet in front of me. I nail his front wheel and don't remember a thing. I just remember hitting him, and I remember coming to what could have been a significant period of time later with his friend or his brother. I'm actually not sure if it was his friend or his brother saying, "Oh my God, I think you killed him." And then that kid who hit me saying, "We need to get out of here right now."
Oh, no.
So one of the better ways to not handle a situation would be almost kill a cyclist and then decide
and then bolt.
We should bolt. So this 10 and 12-year-old, I get up all of a sudden, also a thing you shouldn't do, get up really quickly in a blind rage. I'm bleeding everywhere and literally seeing stars with tunnel vision, massive concussion. Could have had a cervical fracture too, looking back. And decided that I was going to get up and start screaming at these kids. And they freak out and start to ride away, which of course panics me because my bike is the wheel is toast. Somehow that allay frame survived. Lance, it's still open for you to purchase. But I all of a sudden got really, really lightheaded and then had to sit down because I was about to pass out. So it is late evening in Ada, and I am sitting there about ready to pass out as these two kids are driving away. And anybody who knows Ada, Ohio really well, there aren't any people around there at that time. No. Nobody. So basically what the 12-year-old, I think, had this moment of morality come back to him and turned back around and came back. And he was asking me, he's like, "I'm really sorry. Like, are you okay?" And I was like, still very stern with the kid. And I was like, "You need to go home right now and get your dad." I was like, "You need to get your dad and they need to drive here and get me." The kid actually did drive back. His dad came out in the truck.
Wow.
His dad was awesome. His dad made this kid apologize to me. They paid for my wheels out of selling his dirt bike.
Oh my God.
Yep. Made the kid hand me the check 6 days later.
Wow.
And apologized to me. I still think that dad,
wow.
He handled the situation great. The kid got a good life lesson and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, please and God, if you're even a cyclist with somebody, be careful about never leave that situation. I mean, you need to, God forbid somebody needs
medical attention,
resuscitation, even like things like that. Do not leave the situation. You need to, there's a lot of bad things that can happen if you leave the situation. Say like, "Oh, I'm going to go get help." It's like you need to stay there with that person, especially if there's a potentially serious medical situation going on. Yeah.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we kind of covered that one.
I think
there's
we did.
There's a lot more we can get into with respect to the assessment of the injury site and all that other stuff for the crash site. I'm just happy that you're here.
Me too. Mostly
happy, kind of healthy.
It could be way worse.
It could have been way worse. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So that's that. Let's jump into one last thing. Matt, you want to start us off with one last thing? What's in the YouTube?
What's going on YouTube?
Yeah,
I did finally release that video with the goggles for this $200 pair of goggles with the heads-up display.
Yeah,
I'm giving them away, so someone just go on there and win the damn things.
Wait, I thought you were gonna put up something with open water first.
I am probably gonna do maybe 2 more videos, but I'm probably not gonna wait for the open water. I'm gonna
liked him that much, huh?
No, the fit wasn't that great. You know what's funny is,
did you end up liking the Magic a lot?
Yeah, I did.
The Magic looked cool.
Yeah. The fit wasn't that great. The visibility was not that great. And I say all this stuff in the review, but I'm pretty nice about it. And the company sends me an email. "We love the video." They're like, really? it's so professionally done, or blah 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 blah. And they're like, do you want us to send you the heart rate thing that goes with it to review that? And I'm like,
sure.
Yeah, send it. And so I'll probably, I'm going to leave the contest, if you want to call it a contest, open for 3 weeks. And so people can comment on there, but they'll probably get the heart rate thing too. Maybe. I probably will do. I'm trying to give anything that a company gives me, I want to just pass it out. Yeah. Because
you need another set of goggles.
No,
it's
not that they're very unique and it's a very cool company, but I think it's cool that someone can win them. So hopefully,
there you go.
One of our listeners that wants some heads-up display while they're biking can put these goggles on
in the rainy Pacific Northwest weather.
Yep.
Any other one last little thing, or was that it?
I got one.
Okay. Yeah.
Matt already talked about the YouTube, but he just gave me my last thing.
I'm gonna have a whole bunch more goggle videos. At least 4 more videos with all giving away goggles. So good stuff coming up.
Our very own Alan Plank on the cycling and triathlon team decided during his time in Florida that he was going to hop on his trainer and ride for roughly 15 hours.
Oh my gosh, that's something you would do,
Up
Evan.
and down Alp to
Totally
No,
something.
I would never do this Alp to Zwift challenge. This thing is too much.
He Everested on Alp to Zwift.
That is 29,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, it was 14 and a half hours.
Almost. I'm just going to give him 15. We'll just say 15 hours.
15 hours.
He had to change shorts twice.
Did he really? Okay. I had so many logistics questions.
Trust me, me and him yesterday went into I was asking him, like, when did it feel impossible? He was like right around the 12-hour mark. He was like, I could not believe I still had like 2.5 hours.
He still had 2.5 hours to go.
He said it was harder than any Ironman he's ever done by far.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That I just can't even.
29,000 feet. It was like
140 watts.
130 miles.
Average 140 watts.
140
watts. 140 watts to me actually sounds super hard over that long a period
14
of time.
hours? Yeah.
Yeah.
You get like a what? You get a 10-minute break? A 15-minute break?
I'm just wondering if he took all of those breaks. Yeah, bathroom breaks.
That was the only thing he used it for, is bathroom breaks.
No, what I'm saying is you ride up Alp to Zwift, it takes you an hour.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
then,
pretty fast, right? An hour.
Hour's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, or maybe an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and it coasts downhill. How long does the coast downhill take?
I have no idea. Probably 15 minutes.
I want to say
15.
10 minutes, 15 minutes to coast all the
We've
way
all
downhill.
Done it, and none of us know.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's your break. And then you're, okay, I'm on again for another hour and 10 minutes or something like that. Gosh dang, that's freaking crazy.
So he probably went up. I wonder how many times he went up it. I'm sure it's probably like 12 or 12, somewhere in that range, right?
Probably 12, I would guess. Yeah, 10 or 12.
Oh, boy.
Yuck.
Oh.
So hard.
Good job, Alan.
Anyway, that's pretty cool that he did that.
You're a tough guy, Alan.
He's
That's
been on
awesome.
the podcast before. We're big fans. We're big fans of Mr. Plank.
Big Plank fans, yes.
Yep.
Crazy.
Lance, one last thing.
Let's see. This weekend we have our first official race in the area. Am I stealing your one last thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do something else.
I just assumed you were both going to do the same one.
It's all right. Go ahead.
So we have the Jack Frost time trial is happening. And I had big plans to be there, but I'm going to be at a funeral, so I won't even be able to attend. I was going to go and cheer on teammates and watch logistics and see how all that happened, but I'm not going to be there. So
sorry about that, but
yep. More great news for me. I my sister-in-law, my younger brother's wife had been battling cancer for a couple years, and she finally lost her battle last week. So we've been expecting it for a year and a half, and she lasted a whole lot longer than we thought. So I will be traveling this weekend to the Tri-Cities to pay my respects.
Yep. My one last thing is what Lance just said. The Jack Frost Time Trial is coming up this weekend. So I'll end this with a question. 5 years in a row, second place? Is it possible?
Yeah, go for it.
Second place. Yeah.
It's possible. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think Merrick's going to show up.
Well,
it's better. It's better than 5 years
Maybe
third
he will.
place.
You're fit.
I've beat Merrick the last 2 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But
Somebody else has showed
somebody
up.
else always shows up and like just
Yeah.
totally ruins.
Cat one bastards.
I know. Well, it's Eddie Merckx, folks.
Now, this will be the first year in 30 plus years that Jack Frost Time Trial is not an organ, or it's going to be
Right.
flown under the flag of USAC. So
Correct.
I think they even predate the start of OBRA, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, long story short, it's going to be a USAC race, and you can actually go on and see the entries without having to register for the race.
Register.
It's looking a little anemic. So if you're
I
listening
know.
to this
I was
locally and when
worried
it
about
comes out
this.
on Wednesday, it's not a matter of having allegiance with a race organization. It's about supporting the promoters who put on races, because without them, they're the really ones that make racing possible for us. Go support your local race organizers, your race promoters. Go out there and race. Jack Frost is what, $25?
Yep.
Not that much.
Nope.
You don't even have to, I think you can buy like a 1-day license from USAC, and it's super cheap. It's like what, $5?
$5.
And then you can rent a number from
rent the number for $5 also.
For $5, and you get your $5 back when you turn the number back in. So $30 out of your pocket to go do an early season time trial. That's going to be a lot of fun. Do it. Go out there and do it. Come out there, say hi to us. We'll have a tent set up and have a bunch of people out there hopefully and having fun.
Excellent.
Yep, that's my last little 2 cents.
Perfect.
Cool beans. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. Lance, I sincerely hope you feel better, and I'm really hoping for good news on Thursday.
Something like that.
Later this week.
Well, when we get the results back, you get your test tomorrow. So hopefully it's just. I hate to say this. I hope it's just a break.
I hope it's just a fracture too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that you're just just a few weeks out from being able to start doing some basic rehab stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody else, thank you for listening. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
If there's ever a question, would you like to see my ass? The answer is yes, please.
Always yes on that one.